I think it'd be good to start by just introducing yourself and maybe give us the elevator pitch of who you are and what you do at your company.
Hello, my name is Ariel Garten. I am, as you've heard, the co-founder of Muse. We make a brain-sensing headband that helps you meditate. I'm currently on maternity leave, which is, a relevant part of this conversation of women in wearables, that we actually have a tech space that is mature enough that allows people to take maternity leave and do all you need to do to raise a child while your company grows and continues to build products.
My name is Kate Hartman. I'm the director of the Social Body Lab at OCAD University, where we focus on body-centric technologies in the social context.
Hi everyone, my name is Poochareon. I'm co-founder and CEO of Little Robot Friends. We make coding toys and apps to try to help teach kids how to code.
Hi, I'm Lyssa Neel. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Linkitz, and we make social wearable toys for girls to try to encourage more little girls to gain experience and confidence with tech.
Hi, I'm Gillespie, the Director of Digital Communications at Ripple, and we are a personal wearable security service.
Hi, my name is Yvonne Felix. I am head of eSight's partnership team, and I was eSight's beta tester before it was commercially available. It changed my life in a way that I decided I wanted to be a part of making blindness history.
Great. So we actually had a Women in Wearables conversation, I think it was 2 years ago, and a lot of the conversation centered around products. There's not enough products for women on the market. What does that mean? And with the products that were on the market were just smaller, pinker versions of their male counterparts. So now we see lots of products targeted towards women on the market. The wearable tech sector has obviously matured. Does more products equal progress? Where are we today? Open question.
I definitely think that more products equals progress. I think it's an indication that the market sees the value of the products and that women's voices have been heard in the design and usage of these products.
I also think that they say if you can't see it, you can't be it. So seeing women in leadership roles in hardware companies is really important to inspire the next generation.
Anyone else want to take that? So one of the conversations that came out of the Women's March in Washington was this idea of a horizontal approach to leadership. And it's really about rethinking the way we structure businesses. Is this something you recognize in your business, in your company?
So I'm in the position, I run a research lab at a university, and so I'm in the position where my employees are also my students. And for me, I feel like I have as much to learn from them as they do from me. And I think that, in a lot of the contexts we're working in, there's a lot of smart people. If we're not employing smart people, then there's a problem. And so, looking at leadership structures that bring more people up into leadership positions holds a lot of potential.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yvonne, did you want to add to that? The reason I call you out specifically is just because, as I said in my introductory comments, anyone who knows eSight knows you because you're the heart and soul of the company. You wear the product, and you're the face of it in a lot of ways. So I'm wondering how you being a fixture in that organization changes the structure of the organization.
I was literally trying to think of how do I say it in 2 sentences. So I think in an approach to leadership, it's taking on the task of saying that you're going to disrupt a community, a way that the world has perceived the community, and do it so boldly as to wear a technology that says, I'm going to see, as opposed to, I'm going to use a cane to navigate, and acknowledging that there's a little bit of stick-to-itness to it. I'm the face of the company in many ways because I stuck to it. When the device was not commercially available, it was big, it was black, the aesthetic of it was not taken into consideration. And my first sort of real step into the company was at a VC meeting where I walked in. I had made my own eSight, which it didn't look like this, it was very large, but I made my own eSight carrying case out of an old corset that didn't fit me anymore. And that was sort of my step into leadership into the company, not just as a beta tester, but as someone that was going to help dictate what our next generation was going to look like. So being the only female at the time who had sort of taken that step forward to say, no, I know you guys think it looks cool like sunglasses. However, only the 8 engineers want to actually have it look like that. And I remember some of the comments were, like, are we really going to have corset bags? And it was, no, like, we need to take a different approach to this, that it's not necessarily, and I find this quite often at our company, and in my home as well, as my job has really influenced my home life, but being a leader, and again, as it was said earlier, is that you can learn from people as much they are leaders as you are. And I spent the majority of my time learning about nonverbal communication and being able to work in a corporate environment from people that had, may have been a little bit younger than me, but 25 years of life experience seeing, and I had to adapt to their environment as much as they had to learn and adapt from me. And in our home, there's no gender roles, really, or nothing that dictates gender, because mommy works full-time and daddy doesn't, because daddy's got to look after the kids. So their leadership it's across the board. It's sort of the stick-to-ness and the determination to say, I'm doing this because, as someone pointed out earlier, being uncomfortable is the precipice of, I'm going to jump, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to jump, and I'm going to tell myself it's going to be okay. And everybody around is going to see that and go, hey, she's alive.
Ariel, did you want to jump in there? I'm interested to know about how power and leadership is kind of structured at Muse. I know lots about you, but I don't know so much about how the organization is run.
Awesome. And I think Yvonne actually made a point that is critical in any company, which is that each and every person in the company has to be empowered to do what they think is right, to see what they want to imagine come to fruition in the world. And so at Muse and InteraXon, it's really key for us that each and every person in the company is truly empowered, is really capable. Everyone is like such a phenomenal human who is so talented. It would be silly of us to create structures in which, people couldn't shine. So for us, it's really key that each and every person can accomplish what they want in the company, can have their voice heard. It's incredibly transparent. We have weekly town halls where we share everything that happens all the time, and it's a constant dialogue. Yes, there's direction that comes out of that dialogue, and that is shared back, down to the team, but it's never a triangle. It's never linear. It's always sort of a cyclical conversation with everyone.
Great. So when we talk about women's work, traditionally, women's work has been relegated to the domestic sphere. Cooking and caregiving, women still are the primary caregivers. How do you think technology has changed women's work?
Well, washless Wednesdays, workless Wednesdays, when the washing machine came into being, you no longer had to spend your entire day washing, and all of a sudden you had all of this free time. And, thus became the myth of the woman who likes to watch soaps and do nothing all day long, because technology does it all for her. I think these days, that was probably always a myth, by the way. We are empowered by technology to do what we want with our free time, and you have services like Foodora that allow you to prepare dinner more readily so that you can spend more time at the office or with the kids or whatever that choice is for you. So technology in every way subtly reinforces our ability to make better choices in our lives as women doing the double shift, or as dads also doing the double shift.
Absolutely. And did you want to add something?
I think it allows men to take more of a partnership in home life, because laundry is so much. It's not like a gender work, right? Like men can do laundry as well. So and men should be able to cook as well. All the chefs are men, so it's. I think I don't know if it's just the role of technology or it's just kind of like our modern times, but I think we've come a long way from women doing all the housework to being equal.
I also think it's enabled us to have a lot more flexibility, because you no longer have to be physically present in a meeting. you can really work from anywhere. So working from home is much more of an option. There's much more flexibility in schedules. So I think that there's more of an emphasis put on being able to have your work life work around your home life much more than there used to be.
I'll add to that. So I have 2 boys, 10 and 5, and Joe, my partner, and my 2 boys, 10 and 5, and myself, because I travel every other week, we are all on Google Calendar, and it is minute by minute. Everybody knows where everybody is. If you can imagine a 5-year-old on Google Calendar on maybe I'm pushing the boundaries, but the connectivity and socially how we engage as a family, because I'm on the road, is so different. And I had this amazing weekend, just this weekend, where there was almost no talking, and everyone mellifluously just get into the car. Mommy's going here, 5-year-old's going here, 10-year-old's going here, daddy's driving, and I'm working, and then I'm on LinkedIn the whole time trying to organize meetings. And there's this, like, it makes life so much easier in terms of I'm not sitting at home thinking I have to scrub the floors because that's going to make me happy. And I don't know if that exists in the world, and maybe that's very like stating a gender, or that's what women are supposed to do. But I don't, what the world that my mother grew up in, and she fought very hard, I have 5 sisters, for us to go out there and say, okay, you're all going to not sit at home and do what society has said for the last 50 years you're going to do. Thousands of years, really.
Yeah, the angel in the house that Virginia Woolf wrote about. It's kind of a myth of the past, and I think technology has definitely enabled that. So I want to shift the conversation just a little bit to talk about personal safety devices, because we've seen a lot of them come out targeted towards women. Sky, the company that you're here representing, Ripple, actually makes a personal safety device for women. Is this creating a culture of fear? Is it normalizing violence against women? How do you think about that with your product?
I would say that there is definitely a culture of fear, but I think that that's because of historically, fear has sold products. If you think of chewing gum, deodorant, they are all sold based off of fear. Same with products like ours, and I think that that's one of the things that we recognized when we were creating Ripple, and we started to take a different approach. And we always tell ourselves, how confidently could you live knowing somebody always has your back? So Ripple is much more about empowerment, confidence, feeling like you can do anything and knowing someone is always there for you. So I think that it's very important to recognize that. And I think that many people do have to worry about their personal safety, whether you're male or female, especially in today's society. I think that you owe it to yourself. So it's definitely something you have to consider.
Mm-hmm. So they say that hardware is hard. Is it even harder if you're a woman?
I don't think so. I haven't, in the world of hardware, come across any experience in which being a woman has been a detriment. I've definitely come across experiences in Silicon Valley, unbeknownst to me, where you're not getting the investment, you're not getting the deals because you're a woman. But it's not specific to hardware. Actually, one of the main leaders in hardware is the Hardware Club out of Europe, and that has a huge female representation. One of the founders there is female, and it is incredibly inclusive, and you never once think about gender.
Interesting.
Yeah, hardware are just things. And, if you look at other fields that is not tech, like product design or other stuff making, they're pretty much also include women. So I don't think it's specific to gender. It's just that hardware is part of tech, and tech is male dominated, and so it's hard for women to be in tech in general.
I think hardware is just stuff, and when we look at hardware in an isolated environment, there's no way it's harder for women than men. But it's interesting just thinking about how women or young women see themselves, and sometimes them not seeing themselves in that particular practice because of societal, what they've been taught. And it's just very interesting because I've had the experience of seeing a lot of young women who come through my courses, who have amazing skills either in design or working with different very, very technical material practices, and then they come to me and tell me that they're not good with technology. And that really I find that to be quite upsetting because like they're actually quite technological. It's just applying that to a different material practice.
I'd also like to say that because a lot of hardware is done not face-to-face, it's done online, so when you order parts or you order your molds or whatever, no one knows who they're dealing with. And especially if you're ordering from China, a lot of the time they can't tell from your name because it's an unfamiliar name to them, so for all they know you're a man or a woman, and so I, like Ariel, never found anyone in hardware specifically saying, oh, you're a woman, you can't do hardware. In tech, yes, but hardware specifically, no.
Interesting. So Lyssa and Anne, how does education play a role in fostering an inclusive environment for women?
I am so glad you asked me that question. So I just recently was actually at a university where a woman who teaches teachers was talking about the role of technology toys. And she made a really good point, which is the teacher makes a choice. When she has a classroom full of children, she can say, why don't you go play in the kitchen area? Why don't you go play in the block area? And by making those choices, by sending the children to one part or another, she's kind of giving them an idea that this is the role that's right for me, because children learn through play. So I think it's, obviously, I think it's really important to have toys that appeal to both genders, but in particular girls who are underrepresented, to give them the opportunity to build, to test, to experiment, and not just send the girls to the kitchen area, but also to send them to the tech corner, which lots of schools have now with toys like Codapillar and, you know, the robot blocks, whose name I'm forgetting, I'm sorry, robot block people, but yeah.
Anne, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think we have a pretty abysmal numbers that come out all the time about how very little like high school girls like choose to go into tech, and a lot of what we do like at Little Robot Friends is we teach kids how to code. We spend a lot of time working with like younger kids, and I just noticed that basically it's 50-50. Like girls and boys are pretty much at that young age. They're across the board. They're all interested in the same things. It's just that once you grow up and society kind of changes your thinking a little bit, then the girls drop out from like the tech scene. What we have to reinforce is at the young age, get them engaged into thinking that they can also do it too, and you only do that through education.
And that's what Little Robot Friends does. It gives them a point of access. So if you haven't seen Anne's booth outside, it is outside. You can go take a look at what she's doing there. Lyssa, did you want to add something to that?
No, I was totally agreeing with Anne, and I also wanted to say that Microsoft just like last week published a study of 12,500 girls where they pinpointed exactly that. I mean, we all knew that at early age, boys and girls like science and tech and math equally. At 11 years old, that's when you start to lose the girls, and by 15 they're gone. So there's really a small window where you can encourage them and give them that confidence to keep going.
Yeah, because I think inherently too, a lot of women are makers. They like to tinker. And so, Kate, I was wondering, how do you think the maker movement is influencing this whole conversation?
I guess I'd say that it's, the thing that's nice about the maker movement is that it kind of challenges like the human technology power dynamic, and I don't think that's exclusive to females, where people feel overwhelmed by their technology in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But having the tools and the support to actually take something apart and understand how it works is really important. And I think we've seen some great pioneers in the maker movement, like people like Leah Beakley, who kind of brought electronic textiles to the forefront, people like Aya Badir with Little Bits, who really kind of have like brought out electronics in new formats that make it more attractive, to populations that wouldn't necessarily be interested in it otherwise. But I think just kind of breaking out these tools in different forms, opens up lots of new conversations with different populations.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else want to comment on the maker movement?
Yeah, I think the maker movement empowers people to not just be consumers, but be creators. And if we empower young people to be makers, then we'll have much more creators in the future, and we'll have a better future then.
And I want to pick up on something that you actually, Amanda, said in your introductory remarks, which is that women have always been makers. Women sew, that uses geometry, I'm sorry. They knit, which if you think about it, a knitting pattern is a program. So whoever says that women can't do this, they're wrong. They've been doing it for hundreds of years. It's just we've never recognized women's work as making, but now we are. So yay.
Yeah,
just
please,
one other bit is
please.
I think like being able to get up in the business of making technology allows criticality, and I think it allows people to think about the biases that are inherent in the tools that they use because they understand what's going on under the hood.
Because they're taking it apart. Very good. Any final thoughts before we move to audience questions? I think we're ready to throw the speaker box out into the audience and get some audience questions. Thank you very much. Round of applause for our panelists. Questions from the audience. We have a hand up over there.
So it's really amazing that all you guys are in tech. Oops, wow, okay. But I feel like one of the sort of lacking points in this conversation is all of you guys, even though you're amazing, are all in very women-centered technology fields. If you're thinking in mindfulness that has its roots in sort of yoga, which has a more female type of version, kids tend to be more female-centered, other than eSight, which I think is really amazing across every board. But everything here seems to be very women-focused in not only the speakers, but also the technology that you're presenting. How do we get women in more technology-centered pieces outside of women-based things?
So that's an awesome question. I want to kind of tease it apart a little bit because and maybe sort of debunk some myths in the process. You might look at this and say, oh, Muse, it's a meditation device, that's a female-focused thing. Well, we started with a brain-sensing headband that let you control lights on a building across the room, and it was actually my male co-founder that said, hey, meditation is amazing, this is gonna be really the best use of this technology to empower humans all together to, accomplish what we wanna do in our lives. So I think I ask that question too a lot, and I sometimes get irritated when a lot of the conversation is just around women and technology and fashion, and that's it. And so you do need to ask the question, and we do need to really unpack that, but we also have to kind of undo this notion that fashion is just female or meditation is just female, because I think there's an anti-male bias that we're introducing when we ask those questions as well. So thank you, it was an awesome question.
Yeah, anyone else? Want to take that?
Yeah, in education or in design, in other fields of work, you don't really, it's in tech that we complain that women are not represented enough, and which is true. But I work with a lot of educators, and they're pretty much 95% female. It maybe because it's traditional roles from when, we brought up the kids and teachers and all that stuff. But we also have to recognize, I think, that women are also doing other equally important work, even though it's not the forefront and it's not as sexy as like tech startup and making billions of dollars. But they're busy, they're doing other things, and they probably are just not headlining TechCrunch or whatever. But I just feel like we have to recognize that part too.
Next question.
Hello. So a couple of days ago, I was reading Stack Overflow's newest report on the distribution of the ethnicity and gender in the just as coder programmers, and the numbers are not very good as far as the gender distribution goes. Like I think it's somewhere on still over 80%, at least the Stack Overflow's data shows the programmers are still male, and most of them, over 70%, I think, I don't remember the exact number, are Caucasian. My question is, do you as female leaders in technology field see this reality being one day reversed into a more evenly distributed, at least let's see a 50-50, or it's always going to be more, not always going to be like as long as the perceivable future is going going to be more male-dominated, at least in engineering department. And as some other field, and in broader sense, I'm trying to ask, do you see this type of the occupational divide along the gender line always going to be existed? Or do you see this thing is going to be one day eliminated altogether?
So the question is about white male coders, programmers, and is that always going to be the status quo?
I'd like to take that.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys saw, but 2 years ago, NPR's Planet Money had this amazing report on what happened to all the women in code, and you should definitely go out and read it. But what they showed was, like, when I was a kid, which was a long time ago, 90% of the doctors and the lawyers in America were male. And by 1980, it was close to 50%. And now I think, like in medical school, there are actually, in law school, more women than men. But in computer science, you see the line went up, up, up until 1983, and then it plummeted. And they said, why did that happen? And the reason was because, well, it's a correlation, not necessarily a causation, but they showed that that was because when the personal computer was introduced, it was marketed as a toy for boys. And so boys got more coding, they got more experience, they got more confidence, and then, you know, guys are full of confidence, and girls tend to underplay their strengths. Generally, I'm not saying all women and all men. And they attribute the drop in women in computer science to that year. They can pinpoint it. So that is why it is having events like this where women can see that women can do it, that women can achieve, that women are just as smart, sometimes smarter. That is why these events are so important, and I do think that it will change. There's nothing inherently engineering that says only men can do it, or about coding for that matter. So I think it will change to 50%, and thank you all for being here and supporting the idea that this is something women do. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you. I think that's actually a great note to end on. So thank you so much to all of our panelists for being here, and stay tuned for the hardware cup. Thank you. I won't shake your hand, but thank you.